All right, listeners, we are back with part 2 with Adam Robinson. Adam, as you may have noticed in the first part, is a extremely deep but also broad thinker on so many different topics. And today's episode is, well, it's just the continuation of that conversation and a continuation of deep thoughts on a host of broad topics. Today we talk about his friendship with Bobby Fischer, the famed chess master. I had no idea just how famous Bobby Fischer was. At the height of his fame and at the height of the Cold War and him being the best chess master in the world, I had no idea he was the most famous American in the country. It was the whole country kind of put our collective faith in him to beat the Russians in this microcosm of a chess match that represented so much of the macro world Americans were living in at the height of the Cold War. So we talk about that. We talk about simplifying life. We talk about taking a simple idea and taking it seriously, which is Charlie Munger famous quote, take a simple idea and take it seriously. We talk about how science in many ways is just an ongoing process of replacing one error with a better error, but recognizing that we're just always dealing with errors. And how can we refine and slightly improve those errors, but go into it with the humility that whatever we come up with is just going to be a better error. All of that and more with the brilliant mind that is Adam Robinson. So without further delay, let's get into it. This is Below the Line. Okay, so within your domain of expertise, you are looking at macro global trends and advising investors with a lot on the line. For someone that doesn't invest in the public markets, that does not look at 10-year yields and the leading indicators you look at, how would you explain what is happening in this wonderland world?
All investors, when they make an investment, are expressing a view of the future. So I don't care whether you're buying Tesla or shorting gold or,
Investing in a startup?
Well, no, that's not what I said.
Oh.
Careful. I'm talking about liquid markets.
Okay.
That's different. So yes, it's true, but yes, what you said is true, but I'm not talking, I mean, investing in liquid markets, okay. Right? So when you're investing in a startup, it's not the same, right? But yeah, yes, what you said is true, but I want to stick within my domain.
I think you're actually right. When you invest in a startup, it might be 30% chance it actually happens. You might not think it will, but if it does, then the return is worth it. Therefore, yeah, it's not necessarily a bet on what you think is the future.
Yeah, so I'm just talking about my domain, right? So I don't. Okay, so although I'm an entrepreneur, I don't. So just within. So what I cover are equities, but I mean on a sector level or an index level, like the S&P, or large caps versus small caps, right? Like that. There's a trade. You go long, large cap, short, small caps. There are all kinds of permutations around that, but commodities, bonds, and currencies, like all of it. But they're all liquid markets, right? I can buy, sell, so all investors, again, to return, whether in such markets, whether they are buying gold or shorting bonds or whatever it is, or buying the Bund and shorting the US 10-year, whatever they're doing, all investors are expressing a view of the future, specifically the economic future of the world, right? Through whatever their lens is. And that's true on a stock level also. So for example, let's say your view is, or let's say your view a year ago, like we're coming out of equities bottomed on March 20th last year and then started a rocket higher. So let's say you thought, oh, we're gonna get past the worst of the pandemic. So therefore, people will start eating out more. Therefore, I should buy restaurant stocks. And more specifically, I'm gonna buy McDonald's. Let's say that was the chain of thinking. And so, again, you have an idea about the future, a thesis, and then how do I express that idea? Buy restaurant stocks. In fact, then more granularly, buy McDonald's, without commenting on whether that was true or false, just as an example. So that investor buys McDonald's stocks but the McDonald's stocks is an expression of his or her view of the future. So they have a view of the future, which is right or wrong, and their expression of it can be right or wrong, right? Like maybe the person was right, people are eating out more, but not at McDonald's. They're actually skipping the fast food and going to, like higher level restaurants. So you were right about the idea, but the expression was wrong. And so, but that's what every investor is attempting to do. And so all global markets collectively, it's like a big aggregating machine of all views of all investors on the economic future. And so again, they're all trying to make sense of that world outside, behind me. Even if that world outside me is automobile stocks or whatever it is, or anything, but that's what they're doing, right? Expressing an idea of the future. And so most of the time, most people agree about the world, most of the time. And so, for example, we're both in Santa Monica. Sorry, we're both in LA, right? You're in Santa Monica, I'm in West Hollywood. And I'm gonna check the temperature right now. So we do this in real time. So the temperature today is 76 degrees Fahrenheit. And so if I ask people, what's the temperature today like? They'd say, mild to warm, right? No one's gonna say it's sweltering. No one's gonna say it's freezing. They're gonna have some kind of mild warm. And so most of the time people agree about the world out there. And remember, an investment is an expression of the view of the future. And and a trend is the spread of that view. In other words, an idea starts and it spreads, right? You remember from finance courses you took about the efficient market thesis, which is all information is instantly spread to everybody, which is false, A, and B, economists are I only try to speak charitably of people, but not right on this whatsoever. First, that assumption is wrong, and they don't distinguish between information and an idea. An idea takes a while to spread. Information, even if you want to say, like everyone knows tomorrow that there's a fire in the Middle East, and that's going to cut off oil. And you could say, okay, that information goes immediately. Mm-hmm. And that is not really true. But even if you want to say that, but the key thing is the idea. What's the idea? And so trends, and whether it's the trend to buy gluten-free cupcakes, right? Gluten-free, there's a trend. I didn't hear about kale is an idea, right? Who ever heard about kale like 20 years ago? Now you can't go to a restaurant without finding kale somewhere on the menu. And so an idea, so this does apply even in the entrepreneurial space, but anyway, so the spread of ideas. And so trends change when people begin to embrace a new idea or reverse the old idea they used to entertain, right? So I'll give people an indicator. around the coronavirus that I use. So here's an idea. The sky's going to fall. Coronavirus. Right? And that was the idea last year. Okay. And that idea bottomed on November 3rd last year. The stock market bottomed earlier, on March 20th. But the coronavirus, oh my gosh, it's going to be here forever. So that idea bottomed on November 3rd. And I'm going to tell you how I knew it was November 3rd.
Yeah.
Because I never look at surveys. I don't listen to the news. I don't, because those aren't ideas. I'm interested in the expression of an idea. Who's put up money, right? Okay, you think that? How much have you bet on that? You know, when you hear a pundit going, oh, we're bullish on gold. Okay, how much of your money did you put into that? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's your view, great. And also, you know, this is one of my key questions. What would you need to see to change your view, right? I stole that from Stevie Cohen, a friend of mine, right? Big investor in art, everything, sports. And anyway, so what would you need to see to change your view? Anyway, again, what would you need to see to change your idea, right? Your sense of the world. Anyway, so on November 3rd, that bottomed. On March 15th, so today is April 7th. So from November 3rd, investors said, whoa, we're going to be saved from the coronavirus. And this indicator, which I'll share with you, started rocketing higher. And the Pfizer, actually, I don't know if I can share the exact indicator.
Come on.
Well, I don't know.
Adam.
But we'll talk. Maybe. Anyway, so it bottomed. Well, there's a reason, because I advise people, and I don't know if I want to give away, you know, I give away a lot of secrets. Some I don't know that I can give away. In fact, This one, I don't know. But let me just tell you, It peaked on March 15th. Now, I'll tell you this indicator bottomed on November 3rd. Pfizer didn't announce its vaccine till
like the
November 9th.
Yeah.
No, not on November 3rd.
Right.
This indicator, 6 days before Pfizer, was already rocketing higher. So clearly some investors knew, they knew a vaccine was coming. And so they changed their view, right? That peaked on March 15th. The reason I can't say it exactly is that it would be deemed investment advice, and I got to be real careful. I can't give investment advice. But this indicator peaked on March 15th, and it didn't get anywhere near, so mind you, it had been in free fall from the, actually the US market peaked last year on February 19th, before COVID, right? And then it started its free fall. Right, that 35% decline into March 20th, right? The fastest 1 month drop in history. And then, but this indicator had actually started to slide lower in late January. So a few weeks before the market had peaked, it was already sliding lower and saying coronavirus is a little scarier than you think. At bottom of November 3rd, started rocketing higher. And it peaked on March 15th. So 3 weeks ago, it peaked. It's now been in free fall. So it bottomed a few days before the vaccines started getting announced. And then everyone's, yay, the vaccines, yay. It peaked on March 15th, and it's since been in free fall. Free fall.
For the last 3 weeks.
The last 3 weeks. So even though we hear, oh, you know, hope for the vaccine. And this is within the US. I'm leaving aside Europe right now. That's a whole nother, but just within the US. So what this indicator measures is life getting back to normal? Is life going to get back to normal? Socially, like we're going to be able to go outside, do things. This indicator is very clear. Nope, we're not. And so on a scale of 100 to 0, last year, so at the high of this indicator around coronavirus and its impact, it went down to 0 on November 3rd. Then it rocketed into March 15th. So let me see, that's December, January, February, March. 4 months and change, 4.5 months. Say 18, 20 weeks, something-ish. It peaked, and now it's been free fall. So I'll tell you where the indicator is right now, about 30.
Wow.
25.
And what was the height that it got to on that?
It's 0. So in other words, I'm just giving you a benchmark.
So it got to 100.
No. It started the year at 100. Mm-hmm. We didn't know about coronavirus. And it started sliding, and it bottomed at 0.
November 3rd or November 2nd?
November 3rd.
Okay. And
then started rocking higher 6 days before Pfizer announced its vaccine. And then, of course, the others, right? And then and peaked on March 15th. And
what did it peak at if you were to choose a number?
Hold on. It peaked at 78.
Oh, wow.
So it didn't get even with the vaccine. Yay, the vaccine.
But it dropped from 78 to 30.
It dropped from 78 down to about 30 right now. That's real bad. In other words, so the most savvy investors in the world who have done all the research and putting hard money at work are going, life's not getting back to normal. Nope. And they've done it doesn't matter about opinion. I don't care about opinion. So notice the spread of an idea. So it started off, life's not going to get back to normal anytime soon. Then the vaccines came in, it shot higher, but it didn't get back to where it started off 2020 at. And it's since fallen down, big time. Now, I got to be real clear. This is around life getting back to normal. Remember, the market was zooming higher, even though life was not getting back to normal, right? The indexes bottomed on March 20th and have been rocketing higher ever since. But the coronavirus impact on our life, didn't bottom until November 3rd.
So there was a disconnection between those two, or there has been.
No, not a disconnect whatsoever. What made you say it was a disconnect?
Well, a disconnect if the market is rallying higher and rocketing, but it's going down.
Oh, you got to hold on. That's life getting back to normal. That doesn't mean companies making record profits. Mm-hmm. Amazon did just fine during the coronavirus, right? So did Google. Lots of companies did just fine.
Yeah, six of them did. Yeah, the FANG stocks, right?
Well, I really want to. I just want to make sure people understand this thought. I'm not giving investment advice, mm-hmm. but you got to be really clear that life getting back to normal affects, whether you're going to go to movie theaters. Mm-hmm. Doesn't affect the profits of Google. In fact, some of those companies they like things not getting back to normal.
We be Zooming right now.
Exactly right. Zoom. By the way, Zoom got smacked, right? It probably peaked. Then it got smacked because people thought, things are going to get back to normal. We don't really need Zoom as much. Mm-hmm. So again, I don't want to talk about it.
Right. You can't give advice, but there is, if someone's smart out there, they could connect that.
So don't conflate life getting back to normal with certain companies making record profits.
Right.
And in the cap weighted indexes, it's it's about the profits, not is life getting back to normal. Right. So it's very two distinct thoughts. Mm-hmm. So I cited that as how ideas spread. So first the idea, the sky's going to fall on our social life. That bottomed on November 3rd. Then a new idea, vaccines, yay, we're saved. Everything's going to get back to normal socially.
Mm-hmm.
Forget that the middle class has been wiped out. Lots of people have been devastated, their psyches, the trauma and the actual cost of this.
Incalculable, yeah.
Incalculable, just on the human psyche, on so many things. And, but, you know, as investors and entrepreneurs, as anything, we have to, investment decision different from like reality and what we would want for the world and things, you know. And so hold on. Oh yeah. So and then that idea began to shift, and on a dime, both times on a dime. Vaccines, yay, we're getting back to normal. Zoom, 18 weeks higher. But it didn't get back to where it was at the beginning of the year. So even then, with all the enthusiasm around the vaccines, yay, 40% of American adults have been vaccinated. Yay, just a matter of time before everything is reopened. Mm-hmm. And now, like, very sophisticated investors are going, oh no, we're not getting back to normal. And I'm not making, hold on, this is also very clear. I never give my opinion. Mm-hmm. This is the opinion of investors, like markets. Mm-hmm. I have no idea, but I do know they are real smart in thinking about things, and they've done all the research, you know. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, oh no, things are not getting back to normal.
And this is complete conjecture on my part, but conjecture is fun. It could be something like some smart people knew a vaccine was coming 6 days before the world knew. And some smart people might be learning, this is literally pulled out of thin air, but these vaccines might not be as effective for XYZ strain, or, okay, there is this massive fourth wave. There's just something that could be almost even singular around COVID that they know 3 weeks before we all know. And in that wonderland world, things getting bigger, things getting smaller. The propaganda of make sure you get the vaccine. It is all great. It is, it's worth getting. That's its own machine. But the reality could be up that we need to keep that. We need everybody to get it. But maybe there's something.
The reason I'm interjecting here and cutting you off is I never conjecture.
I know. That's why I'm here.
Right. And that's I don't want you to conjecture.
Okay.
Here's why. Is that you and I can never know whether you're right or not. Mm-hmm. And conjectures are very dangerous. Here's why. Because you will lock on the conjecture as an explanation. Mm-hmm. And then you will start looking for confirmation of your conjecture instead of simply seeing what is so.
Well, I was going to say that there is that confirmation bias, and I did have that as something I wanted to ask you, is how to avoid.
Okay, but wait, that's another thought. Let me finish this one.
Please.
So when I make a statement about the market, this is what market participants are thinking. Mm-hmm. And, Damon Runyon, who was a playwright, wrote a lot of musicals, funny, smart dude in the 1920s and 30s. He said, the race is not always to the swifter, nor the battle to the stronger, but that's the way you bet. The smartest, savviest, most informed, incentivized investors of the world are, I'm not going to say 2 thumbs down, but it's certainly 1 thumb down and 1, no, you can get your hopes up. We're placing the bets. And so when you hear this pundit or this politician opining, yes, we're optimistic. Oh, yeah, how much money have you laid on the line on that optimism? Mm-hmm. Probably not a whole lot. Probably nothing. Mm-hmm. And how much if it turns out that optimism was unwarranted, is your business going under? Is your career going under? Are you going to have to leave office in disgrace? No. They can opine. Oh, okay, well, we certainly thought things were going to go well. And I want to say that I am not only not giving investing advice, you and I are not giving medical advice,
Mm-hmm.
right? Here,
Right.
I'm just talking about markets and how to think about ideas.
Right. No, and that conjecture is really just me having fun.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Because it's not my domain. It's not, but it is and really it was actually also to illustrate it, that it could be a singular point of information that certain people have. It sounds like the vaccine in November 3rd was that has not made its way through to other folks, but it's certainly, there is some information out there that is in contrast to, the
Exactly.
JP Morgan saying we're going to be it's going to be growth through 2023 at least, and things like that. There's something else going on.
Yeah. I just remember Goldman Sachs about 3 months ago talking the dollar is going to collapse, blah, 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 blah. And I started telling my clients, I can't say investment advice, but I was taking the opposite side of that trade. And the dollar is now at 4-month highs. And Goldman Sachs is going up. We have retracted that previous prediction. And so it's fun to engage in conjectures, but by ruthless discipline, I've trained myself around investing to have no conjectures. It's so hard. I can't look for an explanation, because if I do, I will start to explore that. And I know ultimately, it is kind of fun, but there's no way I can verify that. I don't know whether I'm right or wrong. And meanwhile, if I have that conjecture, I'm going to start to look for evidence of it.
Right.
Which gets me to confirmation bias.
Yeah. Walk me. Munger's famous for his biases that lead to mistakes. His list. We'll put a link in the show notes for folks to read. His list of I think it's 24 biases that lead to human mistakes.
The psychology of misjudgment or something like that. Something, right? That was it USC or UCLA?
Yeah, that's right. He's speaking at a university and just lays down this gauntlet of wisdom, and it's brilliant. Within confirmation bias, what are the biases that you see infect investors most, that you yourself have to realize I need to watch out for? And then
I don't need to watch out for it, because the reason I don't is I have a whole system based on actually anti-confirmation bias.
Yeah, tell me more.
So I form a view, which is to say I figure out the view of investors in the world. So vaccines are going to save us, right? That was that view from November 3rd to March 15th, right? Mm-hmm. And so all I'm looking for is evidence that investors have changed their view on that. I'm not looking for anything else. So once, and this isn't investing advice, this is just a way to think about things, but you will have, whenever you make an investment, and again, I'm talking about in liquid markets, right? Not if you invest in a startup, that's going to take years to play out, right? You're not going to yank your money out. In fact, you can't really.
Thank God. For me, yeah. I'm actually, I love that aspect.
Oh, good. And they shouldn't, because you'd always be, I got to worry, maybe my investors will yank my money out. Mm-hmm. So, but if you're investing in a stock or buying gold or Bitcoin or whatever it is, you have a thesis, right? And when you place the bet, actually before you place the bet, you need to know exactly what I need to see to tell me I'm wrong, I'm getting out of the trade. Or not only am I wrong, I'm getting on the other side of the trade. I should not be shorting that stock, I should be buying the hell out of it. And you need to know that before you put on the trade. So, and I mean precisely. So, for example, I might say, again, this is an investment advice. It's just, interest rates are going to go lower unless we see copper divided by gold reach a 6-week high, in which case we're reversing, and we're now, so very specific, this indicator, this exact price.
And before you make that trade.
Right, because once you put the trade on,
right.
Now the problem is, once you put the trade on, you're going to have confirmation bias. You're going to look for all the evidence why you were right to make that decision, why you were so smart. And I'm looking only for what do I need to see to get out of the trade? Because the trade will take care of itself. If I'm right, great. But otherwise, all I need to know is when to exit the trade. That's all I'm thinking about. And not to say thinking about, I'm just looking for evidence that I've already stated. I'm gonna leave, and maybe even take the other side of the trade. So that's a way to fight confirmation bias. Is actually, in a sense, it's like internal red teaming, right? You're red teaming yourself, right? And those of you who don't know what red teaming is, should look it up. It's really great, counterfactuals and ways to kind of play the devil's advocate with yourself, right? What do I need to see? It's going to tell me I'm wrong. Now, I'm not going to mention a particular name, but there's a noted investor in the world, okay? Noted investor in the world. And this individual has not been doing well lately. And was asked, are you reconsidering any of your positions? And said investor said, no. In fact, we're thinking about actually even increasing the proportion of our fund that can go into any one of the trades. So this investor was saying, not only have I not changed my view, I'm thinking about piling on more. And so what that person was saying was, nothing can change my mind. I have a view. Nothing's going to change it. In fact, I'm looking to add to my positions. And I would have, if I had been interviewing that person, or that person had, I would have said, well, what would tell you that you should be exiting one or more of those trades? I don't think I would have gotten an answer. And so when anyone advises you, whether it's invest in this apartment complex, this is for all investing. You should invest in this apartment complex, or you should get a second passport, or whatever the person is. Okay, what would you need to see to tell you that you were wrong, that I should not invest in that apartment complex? And they will start to stutter. They will never have an answer, because all they're thinking about is getting you into it, into whatever it is. And so whether you're listening to advice, including from me, or anybody, or you, they say, okay, James, thank you for that. What would you need to see to let you know you were wrong? There's another one of my favorite quotes. Oliver Cromwell, to his accusers back, 500 years ago, 400 or 500 years ago, said, I pray thee in the bowels of Christ, consider the possibility that you are mistaken. Right? Consider the possibility you're mistaken. And I don't want to get into public discourse whatsoever, because it's so charged and everyone's so angry. But you hear people say things, and you want to say, have you considered the possibility that you're wrong on this issue?
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell from their tone of voice and everything else, no, we're not wrong. No, we know we're right.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, well, I'm not going to have any discussion with you because you've clearly made up your mind. Okay. So there, that's so important. That's the way to fight confirmation bias is at the get-go to be looking for the reasons why you're wrong and to assume you're wrong, right? George Soros said once, all our views of the world are mistaken, which is true. They're always mistaken. Richard Feynman said that, Here, I'm going to give you a quote. He's made up on the spot. Science is the ongoing process of replacing one error with a better one. Right? Whatever the model is, it's wrong. And we're going to replace it with a better error. We're still wrong, but we're less wrong. There. That's science is the organized process of replacing one error with a better error.
It's like the student trying to get into Stuyvesant saying, I'm not going to pass this test because of this. Then you get them better on that, and they say, well, I'm still not going to pass the test because of this, because of this, because of this. And or like Michael Jordan saying Offensive Player of the Year is nothing if it doesn't come with a championship, or if it doesn't come with a Defensive Player of the Year the next year.
Yeah. So you're always, it's always a process of doing better and correcting. I was pretty good last year. I could do better. I cited this guy, the director Kurosawa, and really one of the great directors of all time. And at the age of 82, he was accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award, an Oscar. And he was being presented that award by his two biggest fans, George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And so at the age 82, one of the great directors, ever, says through a translator, I have not earned this award. Said, because I'm just getting the hang of directing. Mm-hmm. At 82, right? I'm just getting the hang of directing. But I'm going to accept the award as an inspiration that one day I might feel I merit this award. And, it's always a process of synthesizing and correcting previous errors and anchoring on truths. And going back to Wonderland, with the world in upheaval, you really need to anchor on what are your few core North Stars, like orienting principles like there's an earthquake, right? That's what's happened in the world, just an earthquake all around us. And we keep thinking, things are going back to normal. Okay, earthquake over. Yay, GDP, yay. No, I'm not talking about GDP, but more earthquakes coming, right? We're in Wonderland. And I'm guessing that coronavirus is on an intuitive level is not the main quake, it's a pre-shock. These are pre-shocks. Now we got bigger ones coming. Not just just like negative interest rates. Oh, wow, that's a shock. How about negative oil? That's an even bigger shock. We're getting paid to take oil? It's like, hey, there's a restaurant that opened up in Santa Monica. They're paying customers to come in and eat their food. Mm-hmm. Not only is it it's beyond free, we're going to pay you to come in and eat our food. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think these are pre-shocks.
What are your coordinates? Well,
I've stated a bunch of them, And
you have another, and you stated quotes and personal philosophies. What are your indicators? You've said them in other conversations, but I'd love for listeners to
Well, wait, you mean around investing or what?
Around investing, just so that people can get a sense tactically how simple you
Yeah.
keep
So,
things.
well, I first shared this on Tim Ferriss's podcast back early December 4 years ago, early December 2016, and I shared one of my best predictive indicators for interest rates, which is the price of copper divided by the price of gold. And I say one of my best. And but that's a super cool indicator. And I mean, so cool, it has not been wrong once in, hold on, at this point about 20 years, not once. And so when interest rates are going one way and the price of copper divided by gold is going the other way, copper divided by gold is leading interest rates. It's going to lead the interest rates. So, so there, like I would say all told in all global markets. Now, mind you, I've told you, I cover markets, I cover sectors. Right? There are lots of sectors in the U.S. Stock market. I cover all global equity markets and currencies and bonds and commodities. I look at about, all told, really, at any one time, I look at about 3 or 4 indicators in the world. That's all I do. And from those, I can extrapolate everything else. Mm-hmm. So copper divided by gold is one of them. The credit spread, which I've also mentioned in some podcasts, is another one of them. Which, if you're looking at ETFs, the investment grade credit spread is LQD divided by IEF. Right? Mm-hmm. So if that's going one way and stocks are going another, the bond traders. So it's investment grade bonds versus treasuries, 10-year treasuries. And so when bond traders and equity traders disagree, I know bond traders are right 19 times out of 20. So I boiled the world down to very few indicators. All told, I probably have about 70, but most of them are permutations of about a dozen. And I don't know if you, in pilots, there's something called your instrument rated, which means you can fly the plane
without looking out the window, right?
Without looking out the window, just looking at the indicators. And I can, so those indicators for me, I could do 95% of what I do looking about 6 or 7 of them. Even though I have a bucket of about 6 or 7 dozen, and at some points it's just one. I boil down everything down to one indicator. I know what that's doing. I can extrapolate to everything else. Every sector, everything.
This might not be interesting to listeners, but I have to ask: is it a matter of incentives in that metal traders are seeing something before bond traders are seeing something before equity traders?
Okay, so nothing to do with incentives. It has to do with, so all investors, it actually comes back to simplicity. Metal traders are really good at understanding the world. I tell my clients, because they're the Forrest Gumps of the investing world. Forrest Gump. They look at things really simply. Are people buying copper? Industrial metals, if they are, yay, things are picking up in the world, yay, I guess things are going good. People are building stuff, that's yay, good. Life is a box of chocolates. And Forrest Gump looked at the world really simply. Look how well he did, and all around him, all the smart people overly complicating things. How the hell is he doing this? And so, mind you, his wasn't a calculated simplicity. it was, again, Stephen Jobs, calculated simplicity, Stephen Jobs, Picasso. Picasso's simplicity was a calculated simplicity. You, Mr. Artist Man. And I used to dismiss Picasso. When I was a kid, I used to go to the Art Institute in Chicago every Saturday to take art classes when I was 8 and 9. And my mother was trying to educate me somehow, little wild thing that I was. And I remember looking at Picasso's paintings thinking, oh, I could have done that. Until recently, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I used to think the same thing. I don't know anything about art. And then I saw some paintings Picasso had done when he was a teenager, 14, 15. Mm-hmm. Right? You're smiling because he was painting like Rembrandt at 14.
He's a freak, yeah.
He's a freak. And you go, oh, he chose to paint that way. Mm-hmm. Not that that's all he could do. He could have painted like Rembrandt. He chose to paint like Picasso.
It's like Eric Clapton. Eric Clapton's the best guitarist maybe ever. And you listen to him in Cream, and he is just wailing with the most complicated things ever. And then you listen to him in his solo career, and you would have no idea the power he was, what he was capable of, because he kept it so simple and phenomenally beautiful music, but simple.
So simple. And why do I boil it down to a few things? It goes back to the things we said earlier, below the surface, right? I got a few things, but below that is decades of hard thinking that I've done on this stuff. It took me a while to get there. It's not like I started with that. And so also it goes back to the reason I only look at a few things in the world. First, because I have a Cocoa Puff brain. I can't think really one or two ideas. I'm already kind of overwhelmed. And literally, I just, okay, wait, could you repeat that again? And so because I don't have much working memory, I just really can't think it too much in my head. I gotta do it simple. And again, the irony, people think I'm so logical. It's precisely because I'm not, and I have to force myself to kind of really lock onto the few things I can do that I seem logical, but I'm not. And also it goes back to, what would you need to see to show you were wrong? Well, I'm only looking at a few things. Really, my investment, when I come up with an investment thesis, it's like 2 or 3 sentences, 2 or 3 short sentences. If you look at, an investment analysis by one of these investment banks, it's like 50 pages long with tables and charts and all this stuff. Well, that's very sweet. Thank you so much. What would you need to see to tell you all of that analysis you should throw out the window? They wouldn't, they got like hundreds of variables they're looking at. So they can't actually articulate a disprovable thesis, right? Any theory's got to be disprovable. You got to know, we're wrong. That theory was wrong. That error, we're replacing it with a better error.
In my mind, I'm thinking you almost have laid it when I ask what is happening in this Wonderland world. You talk about the indicator. You keep the conversation to that. You don't talk about the conjecture, and almost inherently, I don't even need to ask what would help you change or what would make you change your mind, because it's just built into your answer. If that indicator went in the other direction.
Yeah, I seek error, my own. I seek it out. That's true with any. You look at any of them. Michael Jordan, like, I gotta perfect my free throw or whatever. You gotta seek out your errors and ruthlessly correct them. And you hear, wow, it's really, I gotta tell you, I don't indulge in negative emotions. I mean, sometimes I get them for like an hour or something, but I don't indulge them. Too costly. And it means my attention is misplaced, right? I'm either not thinking about the task at hand or the person in front of me, like you. And so, oh shoot, Mr. Cocoa Puff Brain, I just lost the thought. Error?
The how you would, what information would I need to present to you to tell you're wrong? You already had it built into your answer.
Yeah, no, I know, but I was going to another thought. Hold on, give me a sec just to reorient myself back on this, because there's so many strands here,
Sure.
we're all into a tapestry, right?
Right.
And they're all connected, not, so let me see. Oh yeah, negative. Oh yeah. Something that gets me a little is I hear pundits or politicians assert things, or economists or whatever. They simply assert things, and there's no humility behind it. No, this is the best I've been able to come up with right now. And all I'm looking for, like, they don't have red teaming. Where am I wrong? Just like the DuPont dude, something DuPont the second. I remember he was the second. And saying, okay, sets up a whole division, put nylon out of business. I want something better than nylon, right? Because he knew all his competitors were doing that. So where am I wrong? I've recommended X. I just need to see evidence that I'm wrong on this. Like, okay. And part of it is, the discipline of you as an investor, or you as a dad, right? You don't take chances, right? With Marley and Elle, with your family, you don't take chances. Or with your investing, you don't. Or your startup there, And so, because we have skin in the game, real skin in the game, or the skin in the game is people we love and care about. So we calibrate around the risks we take very carefully. And I have no patience for people who, opine on this and that, and including our leaders. This is not, I'm not getting dragged. I'm apolitical. This is true of all politicians. They say something and they don't, there's no, I might be wrong. Okay, I think this is the best I can do. And please, if I'm wrong about this, can someone please tell me? And to know internally what you need to see that's going to tell you you're wrong. Again, without mentioning any names, Texas. You're from Dallas. You're a good Dallas boy, Texas boy. And the governor of Texas said, we're opening up. And everybody.
We beat COVID. COVID ain't anything anymore. Texas beat COVID. Texas won.
Okay. So, but everyone was, all these doomsdayers going, oh boy, this is going to be a second huge outbreak. Oh my God, sky's going to fall. That's just irresponsible decision. And yet, week after week, new cases have been plummeting, free fall. And so various people who claimed that was the huge mistake were asked, well, how do you explain that the cases keep plummeting? Again, I'm not getting dragged into, I'm not opining here, but they were asked, just talk about your thinking. Well, you said that these cases were going to shoot through the roof in Texas. And they've done the opposite. And all they talk about, they come up with explanations to explain why that's happening without going, we were dead wrong. Okay. Again, I am not making political advice. I'm not making medical advice. I'm not I don't want to get dragged into that.
No, but I think the point is clear. It's that it helps when you've got skin in the game, and for politicians and pundits. I just read last week that people trust CEOs 3 times more than journalists. CEOs tend to have a lot of skin in the game.
Yep, and yes, yes, indeed, yes, they do. Well, and not to say CEOs are infallible or anyone is,
right.
You know, but just that's the thing. Fallibilism, as a philosophy, is the belief that you are always more or less mistaken. Remember, I said science is the organized pursuit of replacing one error with a better error.
I love that thought.
Right, I do too. I came up with it talking to you.
Well, we're going to add that at the top of the show notes.
Yeah. It's but that's getting, you know, I'm always wrong. It's just now I'm a little less wrong. And you know, it was Beckett in one of his plays said failed again, fail better. Like fail better, right? A high jump contest, you're always going to fail. The idea is to fail better than everybody else and set a world record. You know, what's the guy that Cuban Javier, the only guy who's cleared 8 foot, 8'1", I think, something like that.
Wow.
You know, like nearly 30 years ago.
He failed best. Yeah.
Yeah, the best. And so he failed higher than anybody else.
What was, the last 2 questions I have for you are around, you've spoken eloquently around avoiding stupidity, written eloquently around it, and spoken eloquently around avoiding stupidity and the importance of routines. And then I also want to chat about your life principles or the reflections that you've shared in previous years that I loved so much that I listened to it again. I had my wife listen to it, and we still talk about it years later. It's one of the impetus behind wanting to bring you on the podcast, because it was just so beautifully articulated. But before I get to those last 2 questions, you were so close to absolute greatness and genius in Bobby Fischer for years. And before I ask about the system of you, what was his system?
You know, I got to say something. You know, Bobby Fischer, you know, his life ended tragically. And it so breaks my heart. You know, I don't think we'll ever see another genius like Fischer. Now I say that, you know, so how is he unique? So here's the way to think about it. So when Bobby Fischer was 6, his older sister, 2 years older than he was, she was 8, and they were latchkey kids. And so one day,
what does that mean?
Latchkey? Latchkey is letting you in the house. Your parents are working and you're just on your own. Like, right?
Yeah.
So you're kind of on your own. And so she brings home a chess set for little 6-year-old Bobby. And just to kind of keep him occupied. And so he becomes obsessed with chess. Okay. And all he's doing is just studying chess. And by himself, no teacher. You got to let that land. By the age of 12, so 6 years of studying, I don't know, probably 8-10 hours a day, he was merely a good 12-year-old, not a prodigy. After 6 years of intense studying, he was merely a good 12-year-old, not a good player in the broad sense, but as a 12-year-old, pretty good. The next year, at the age of 13, he played a game that to this day, they say is one of the, it was called the game of the century as a 13-year-old. So 1 year, 12, he's a good 12-year-old. Next year, he plays a game that people today are still going, oh, it's possibly one of the top 10 games ever played. At the age of 14, he was the US champion. not for 14-year-olds, for everybody in the States. At 15, he was number 5 in the world.
Wow.
Got to think about this. All on his own. He had no coach. Name someone at the top of any domain that didn't have a coach. Name one person. Nobody. They all had coaches, great coaches, and he did it entirely on his own. And while going up against the Russians. And the Russians, chess was their thing. And not just their thing, this is during the Cold War. It was their proof of their cultural superiority in their minds, right? And so from 1948 to 1970, 24 years, they owned the world championship. It was one Russian passing it off to another. They had schools, like we have, graduate schools, MBAs, medical schools. They had chess schools. And their teachers were the best chess players in the world. Of the top 200 chess players in the world, at the time, something like 160 of them were Russian.
Wow.
And they all helped each other. Mm-hmm. And all of them, their mandate was stop Fischer at all costs. Stop Fischer at all costs. And they were preparing variations. They studying his psychology, any way they could to stop this literally a lone cowboy. Literally. He had no help whatsoever. And he beat them. Think about that. And technically, there are a few people who have higher chess ratings than he had. But even like Magnus Carlsen, those guys, they had help. And they're training with the top chess programs now, which are way better than human beings. Like way better. Like the best chess computer right now, software, which you can get for free, by the way.
Let's take a moment to show some love to the sponsors that are showering love on this podcast. And if you want to support the podcast, then you can go and check out our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by Dover.com, which is it is the founder's best friend. I am so pumped about this company, this service, because it is doing for recruiting what Segment did for analytics. Instead of having to implement X, Y, Z different analytics platforms, Segment was a layer on top of it. Dover is doing that for all of your recruiting tools and all your recruiting needs. So instead of having to learn this applicant tracking software, this 20 different ways of sourcing candidates, this Excel spreadsheet, all of these emails in your inbox, going back and forth with different tools that you're using, you just have one brilliant, seamless, simple to use layer on top of all of them. Dover will even, and this sounds too good to be true, but it is one of the coolest things I've seen from any recruiting software. It'll even learn your pitch and do your phone screen interviews for you. Go to Dover.com to check it out. Like I said, it is a founder's best friend. Every one of my portfolio founders, their biggest need is recruiting. And when you get down to it, it's also the efficiency around recruiting, not just trying to fill the seats, but doing it in the most efficient way because, well, let's face it, you're a founder, you got a million things going on. And Dover is by far the most efficient way of recruiting. And Dover is the best tool I've seen in this space. So go check it out, Dover.com. All right. We are also brought to you by NetSwizzle. And I bet you heard about NetSwizzle, but you never heard about it like this. If you're a business owner, you might be making running your business way harder on yourself than necessary. Don't let QuickBooks or spreadsheets across a bunch of different files slow you down anymore. It's time to upgrade to NetSuite. Stop paying for multiple systems that don't give you the information that you need when you need it. I once heard a story that at Tesla, Elon Musk said that the one thing that they're going to be better in the world at than anyone else is that all of the engineers are going to be able to get the schematics for anything that they're looking for, any information they have within 60 seconds. They can find any information they want within 60 seconds. And the brilliance of that is time is money, and people waiting around 8 hours for information they need the marketing department or the HR department, being able to see exactly the information that they need instantaneously. Well, that's what NetSuite does. Now is the time to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle, the world's #1 cloud business system. NetSwizzle gives you visibility and control over your financials, HR, inventory, e-commerce, and more. Everything you need all in one place, instantaneously. Not even 60 seconds. Whether you're doing $1 million or hundreds of millions in revenue, save time and money with NetSuite. Join over 24,000 companies using NetSuite right now. Let NetSuite show you how your business will benefit from what they've got to offer with a free product tour at netsuite.com/BTL for below the line. Schedule your free product tour right now at netsuite.com/BTL. That's netsuite.com/BTL. For listeners, Adam's computer died briefly, so now he's back plugged in. But yeah, you're mentioning.
Well, you can splice this.
I know, but I'm going to add that in just because they'll see the difference in background. I want them to know
a little bit.
Yeah.
It's because I'm resourceful.
That's right. That's right.
Damn it, I'm the MacGyver of West Hollywood.
Connecting a charger to the computer. But yeah, you were saying Carlson had coaches.
Coaches, all of it. He's coached by these computers. I know. I was saying that Carlson. I'm a very strong chess player. Like in baseball terms, I would be a very good minor league baseball player. Not the majors, but then I'd have to train and really, And Carlson is the best chess software, which is free, open source, is as good against Carlson as Carlson is against me. He would wipe me out in a 100-game match. I'd be lucky to get a draw. And I'm very strong. And Carlson would be lucky to get a draw against the software. That's how good it is. So the best players today, not only did they have coaches, when they were going up, but when they got to the top, now they got chess computers that are way better than human beings. And so that was the amazing thing about Fischer.
This is such a, I feel like I could do an episode with you just on Bobby Fischer. So, but I will, I'll stop myself, but I do want to ask, just tell me more about Bobby Fischer.
He was a really simple guy. And, if you ever see YouTube videos of Richard Feynman, right, one of the geniuses of the last century, another Nobel laureate, forgetting his name, Murray Gambell, like a hyphenate last name, who himself, Nobel laureate, right, said this was Feynman's problem-solving algorithm. Read problem, think, write down solution. How did he do this stuff? Like the other Nobel laureates were in awe of him. But if you listen to videos of him, he's a boy from the Bronx with a Bronx accent, he used to ride around and, just an ordinary guy. And Fischer was like that, ordinary guy, but just, whoa. One of the most memorable things I ever, of many things, and it's funny. He invited me to the World Championship. He invited me he played in the qualifying matches leading up to the World Championship. He invited me to all those. But I was so, I think in a good way, taking for granted our franchise. Well, I'd love to go, but it's swim season. I can't stop practicing. And then I was off to Wharton. I'd love to come to the World Championship. Got to start college now. And I remember, so I was with him for 2 weeks at Grossinger's as he had isolated himself to prepare for the World Championship. So just Fischer, and for 2 weeks I got to spend time with him, just hanging out, watching him study. And so we played blitz games and stuff. And then he had a red book of Spassky's games, like 600 odd games. And he used to play and replay all those games, and just immersing himself in Spassky's games. Again, just by himself. I remember we'd go through games, and I just watching him, right? I just, again, not even close to that level, you know. It's like, and he'd often look at a position and say, "So Adam, what would you do here?" I'd say, "Well, Bobby, you know, like, you're the best of all time. Do you care what I would do?" He said, "No, really. What would you do here? What, in this position? What would you do?" And I was interested in my thinking, but also one of the things I had that he liked, I knew all of his games by heart, all of them. Mm-hmm. Just on my own. Just, I didn't try to memorize them. I just did. In fact, I knew them better sometimes than he did. And I remember once we were playing a game, and it was fun playing him because I would play his own openings against him. So he was playing against himself, and often until we got to the middle game, and then he'd crush me. I remember once we got to this position, and it was a game he had played with Reshevsky, except he was now playing Reshevsky's side, and I was playing his side. So I'm playing him, he's playing against himself, right? And we got to this position, and I said, "Bobby, you said white stands better here." No, wait, hold on. Yeah, you said white stands better here. And he looks at the board, he said, "Oh, I was wrong." I love that, you know, and you know, that he began to lose his mind after the World Championship. Just really sad. To paranoia. And there's an old saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not out to get you. And, you know, when he was a boy, think about when you were 14, 15, 16, you know, the kind of sense of righteousness, you know, if you see cheating, that's not fair, you know, the way. And Fischer was claiming that the Russians were cheating when he was coming up the ranks, you know. He said, "Look, I'm trying to beat the Russians, but they're cheating. Not only did they have all the top grandmasters of the world targeting me, they're cheating on top of it. And, you know, they're throwing games to each other in tournaments, they're signaling each other. And everybody said to Fischer, "Oh, you're just, you know, come on, you can't be doing that." And when the Berlin Wall fell, and, you know, the Soviet Union broke up, and many of those chess grandmasters defected to the West, they said, "Yeah, everything Fischer accuses of, absolutely we were doing that." So think about that. You're a kid, you're 14, 15, going up against literally an entire country, determined to stop you at all costs, and they're cheating, and you're screaming, "But they're cheating!" Like, come on. It's just, and so he began to lose his mind, you know, and really, it's such a shame. If they go back to 1972, you go to YouTube videos and you see interviews of him in his prime, like just when he won the world championship. You see a guy who's movie star handsome, articulate, funny, and 2 years later, he was wandering the streets of Pasadena talking to himself, like kind of like a homeless guy.
What do you take away from that?
Well, you know, a friend of mine thinks that the KGB drove him mad. You know, he defaulted on the world championship. Russians didn't have him to worry about anymore. And then you know, then of course the next, he defaulted and Karpov won, another Russian. And then Kasparov won, another Russian. Until they're not the top anymore, right? And they're still great, the Russians, so great. I'm not taking anything away from the Russian people or anything, but this was a country determined to stop him. And they did. They stopped him any way they could. So
who is the top country?
Right now, Magnus Carlsen is the top. He's Norwegian, but there are a bunch of other players nipping at his heels. Fischer, the gulf between Fischer and Spassky, oh my gosh. Rating points, it was about 150 rating points. So it's Fischer here, Spassky 150 points below him, number 2 in the world. Magnus Carlsen has, I don't know, a dozen people who are like 30 points away from him, 40 points away from him. Yeah, he's the best for sure, but there are a bunch of others who are really nipping at his heel. Like, no one was close to Fischer.
With how well you knew Fischer and being with him right before he won the championship, and then the reclusive decline 2 years later, that's a very fast time for psychological deterioration of any sort from such heights.
Exactly right, which means maybe it's not so normal, which goes to my friend's thesis. He was driven mad, and the thing is, everything that he had claimed to be true was in fact true.
Right.
And if someone is paranoid a little bit, and it turns out they were right to be paranoid, they're not paranoid. They really are out to get you.
Right.
And which they admitted to in throwing games to each other, in other words, but they're cheating. And everyone's go, oh, Bobby, come on. They're not cheating. They're just really good. No, come on. Look at this. This is what they're doing. And no one believed him. And then when it happened, they said, oh, yeah, of course we were doing that. Yeah, of course we were.
Yeah.
And so that's why my friend believes, and he's a smart dude, this guy. And I had never thought about that. I never thought, oh, they drove him mad. Very easy to someone who is suspicious. And for 2 decades, people have been saying, oh, come on, this is ridiculous what you're claiming. To drive him over the edge wouldn't take much, really. You should look at pictures. So Fischer, last thing on Fischer. He ate dinner. My mother, when I was out of town in New York, my mother would cook him dinner, and he'd hang out, and I wasn't even there. And I lost touch with him after the World Championship. I was at Wharton, kind of going. I started college, and I started hearing stories. I would write to him every few months. There was a post office box that you could write to him at, and I'd write to him, and I didn't have any phone number for him, but he had fallen out of touch. He wasn't in touch with my mother. After the World Championship, there's a big ticker tape parade for him in New York. I didn't go to that because I was in school, college, first year. But my brother, I got him a 2-disc set of Motown hits as my present for winning the World Championship. And so, but then he fell out of touch. He just dropped out. And my mother, I didn't know how to get in touch with him. So every 6 months or so, I just write him a letter, just kind of, hey, what I'm up to. And then, and then I started reading stories about Fischer, wandering the streets of Pasadena, like kind of muttering to himself, really like worse than homeless, like clearly had lost his mind. And I was deeply concerned. And so this is 1972. So I'd write to him every couple of months, like as if nothing had changed. I didn't say, how are you? But I'd say, oh, this is what I'm up to. And I did that for 14 years. Think about that, 14 years. And in 1986, I wrote him a letter. But I'd been writing him letters all the time. I'd never heard from him. And just 14 years later, again, had not heard from him 14 years. But I keep writing letters. And I said, hey, Bobby, my first book is coming out. Which was to become a New York Times bestseller, right? From the Princeton Review, my first SAT book. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in California on book tour. Be really nice to see you. And I got a phone call from him. 14 years of not hearing from him. He said, okay. He said, so you're coming out to California? I said, yes. It'd be nice to see you, Bobby. And again, I'd heard of his decline. I'd heard the worst stories. And he said, okay, I'll meet you on the corner of Wilshire. Shoot, I can't remember the cross street. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what the cross street was, but it was in Hollywood. Beverly Hills, kind of like Wilshire, and he said, "I'll meet you on the corner at 1:00." And I was thrilled, right? I was thrilled. I was deeply concerned about him, and I hadn't heard from. It was the first time in 14 years. So I show up at noon. I don't want to. Not only am I not going to show up at 1, I'm going to be sure I don't miss him. Mm-hmm. By the way, that office building that was there is still there. Anyway, so 1:00 comes and goes. 2:00 comes and goes. And it's like nearly 3:00, and I'm standing on the street corner, just standing there. And all of a sudden, Bobby walks up to me. And he said, let's go grab a bite to eat. And I did. And I was so heartbroken because, you know, he looked like he was a vagabond.
And were you kind of walking on eggshells, just not knowing what to say?
No,
No,
not at all. I was just talking to him like as if nothing had happened. Mm. And so we sit down in a restaurant, and it was either Chinese or Korean food, and they had a very hearty appetite. And mind you, again, you go back and you look at the pictures, he was movie star handsome, 6'3", like an Olympic athlete. And now I'm looking at him, he's disheveled, his hair is scraggly, you know, and we sit down and we start to have a conversation. Seems normal. And I think I hear Elle in the background.
You do hear Elle in the background. Jake, do you mind out there and just letting him know we're recording?
No. I'm so delighted to hear her.
She is screaming and crying in the background.
That's so great.
You can go through. You can go through this. You can go through this door right here. But I'm gonna.
Jake, don't you dare splice this out.
We're leaving this in, but Jake is going to be kind enough to let Elle know that we're recording.
Oh no, I really want to hear her exuberant.
It's crying, so it's not necessarily her best foot forward, but
okay. I didn't know she's crying. Oh no, sorry. You just like exuberantly. No. So
But yeah, you're saying Korean, Chinese food.
So we're eating and we're talking, and again, I'm heartbroken, right, to see this fall from Mount Olympus. Someone who was my hero and mentor. And by the way, he had very few friends in his life. I was like one of like 10 maybe that he ever trusted. And anyway, so we're talking. I forget where the conversation went, and I said something, and he said, "Well, the Jews control that." So imagine we're talking about baseball or something innocuous, and he goes, "Well, the Jews control baseball," and I was so kind of stunned, and later, by the way, he was Jewish. And then a little later on, we were talking, and he said, "Well, the U.S. government is completely controlling that. It's government." Oh, okay. Then we're talking a little more, and he was talking about the Russians, and And I'm trying to keep conversation back to stuff and normal things, like as if nothing had happened, you know, not like, hey, Bobby, I haven't seen you for 14 years. What's up? And, people forget he was in 1972, he was the most famous man on the planet. Number 2, Muhammad Ali.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Number 2. And he had all kinds of $1 million offers, endorsements for this and that. I'm telling you, there's no one ever. He was a hero. I think it was the American against Russia, the Cold War. And also the lone cowboy, John McClane, yippee-ki-yay. This was one guy who could beat the Russians. Oh my gosh. And did it the American way, which is to say with no help. And lone cowboy. Anyway, so I'll give you an example. He was offered it was either $1 million or $5 million from some shampoo company to endorse their shampoo. Hey, Bobby, just give you $1 million. I mean, they were throwing offers at him. And he said, but I can't take that. I've never used your shampoo. Like even in Forrest Gump, when they said, I don't really use this, but mom says that wouldn't really hurt. I mean, a really cute little.
Right.
Everyone knows you don't use that. And Fischer couldn't, that's how pure he was. I can't, you'd think, well, if they'd have said to me, I'm going to use a shampoo for a week and go, oh, look at my fluffy hair.
Oh, I'll promote stuff on this podcast that's absolute. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Of course, you got to believe in it, but okay, right. I'm going to try a shampoo and go, I've never tried a shampoo that cleans my hair this well.
Right.
Which might be the truth, but no shampoo has ever done any worse either. A little white lie, but okay, $5 million. But Fischer couldn't do that. That's how pure he was, as an innocent. And then anyway, so again, the Jews are controlling this, and the U.S. government that, and the Russians are and I said to him, just trying to understand, and I said, Bobby, if the Jews are in on this, and the U.S. government and the Russians, if everyone's in on this, who's it against? And again, it was just I just trying to understand his thinking. And there was a kind of like a startled pullback. And I went, oh no, I overstepped. It hit too close to home. And I saw him once or twice after that, but then I didn't see him again until 1992 when he had a rematch, 20 years after he had a rematch with Spassky, a 20-year thing. And I helped kind of organize, but even then he wouldn't talk to me on the phone. For some reason, I think, oh man, I thought I could trust Adam. Oh. And so he kind of sort of trusted me, but not. I somehow in that one sentence,
showed your cards on the other side. You were
like, oh my gosh, Adam's in on this show. Really, I thought I could trust Adam.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he semi-trusted me after that, but not really. Anyway, so that was Fischer, and a really beautiful soul. And people look at him in his later life and completely, lost it. And they forget what he was. And it took only 2 years to completely disintegrate. You don't disintegrate in 2 years. Right. Oh no, you're
especially not from that height.
People, right? Not that you're over. Anyway, so that was Fischer.
Well, bringing it back to you as we round this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for the generosity of time and insight, Adam. What are you? I'm having a blast as well. This is what I would do if nothing else were a concern.
Yeah.
Does you've spoken at length around stupidity and avoiding stupidity. You mentioned at the top of the conversation around Charlie Munger saying we're not trying to be smart, we're just trying to avoid being stupid. Can you tell listeners a little bit about what can cause stupidity and how to avoid it?
Yeah, so that's a kind of lengthy thing,
Okay.
So stupidity is because I wrote a book, How Not to Be Stupid, and
Right.
Buffett endorsed it, right? He said, this book is loaded with good ideas and appropriate warnings. That was 2 years ago, 2 years and change. But I have to rewrite it because I wasn't intending really to publish it. And to clarify something that's really central. So stupidity is not the opposite of intelligence. I spent a week of really hard thinking just to define stupidity before I started the project. And it's overlooking or dismissing conspicuously crucial information. And and each of those words, overlooking or dismissing conspicuously crucial information. So it's crucial information, so you really better pay attention. It's conspicuous, like it's literally right in front of your nose, or you have easy access to it. And yet you either dismiss it, you go, whatever, or you don't even see it. And it's so critical in life, and it's literally you're blind to what's right in front of you. And it's crucial. So you better not be blind to it. And yet you are if certain conditions are present. And these conditions are so ubiquitous in life that you can't escape it. And I identified seven factors. I'm just going to list them really quickly. In no particular order. Being outside your normal environment, information overload, like multitasking or dealing with a lot of information. You're doing a task that requires intense focus. 3. 4, a sense of urgency or rushing. 5, being in the presence of an authority. 6, being in the presence of a large group, a group, kind of similar, homogeneous kind of group. And 7, physical or emotional compromise. You're tired, you're angry, you're sick. And so you don't need all 7 factors to be in the stupid zone. Any 2 or 3 of them, you're sunk, you're in the stupid zone. But all 7, you are really sunk. So, and again, when you're in the stupid zone, you are literally blind to a lot of stuff around you. And so, on standard or warning label on a medicine bottle, it says, warning, this medication may affect your physical or cognitive functioning. If affected, do not drive or operate heavy machinery, right? Okay, and of course that's true, right? If you're gonna take something gonna be a little woozy, you better not be driving. You certainly don't wanna be operating, forklifts. Okay, but you should be doing a lot of things if that's the case, right? As if those 2 things are the only ways you could mess up your life. You shouldn't go hang gliding, right? Don't go skateboarding. Don't be working the grill outside. You might fry your face. Don't be signing contracts. Don't be doing a lot of things. And, it was Buffett who once said famously, it takes 20 years to build a reputation, 5 minutes to ruin it. And if you think about that, you're going to do things differently. If you're in the stupid zone, boy, so this is the mind-blowing stuff. If you're in the stupid zone, these factors are present, you will be blind to crucial things in your environment. And you won't realize that you're blind. If you were driving a car, and I know you're in Santa Monica right now, so there aren't really thunderstorms, but occasionally you get them, and certainly in Texas and other places. I know you've been in situations where you've been in such torrential downpours you couldn't see 20 feet ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
And what do you do in such situations? I'm asking you, when it's that bad, what would you do?
Pull over to the side of the highway.
Exactly right. Pull over to the side of the road. I'm driving a 2-ton, death box. I'm not going to drive. No, I'm not even going to slow down. I'm going to pull over to the side of the road. Not just because other cars can't see it. I don't want them slamming into me. Mm-hmm. And so you pull over. You take no action. And I would tell you that when you're in the stupid zone, you will be that blind, but you won't be aware of it. You're not going to pull over. And it's so shocking. I know that you've done things in your life, because I have, everybody has, where you look back and go, what the heck was I thinking? What was I thinking? I can't believe I did that or said that, right? And you were in the stupid zone. Now, when it occurred, you didn't know you were in the stupid zone. But now, 2 weeks later or 2 years later, you're no longer in the stupid zone. So when you look back, you go, how the hell did I ever do that? What was I thinking? Well, you were in the stupid zone. Then, now you're not. Mm-hmm. And in the stupid zone, we see other people, they do things. And we go, how could they have done that? And we also say, I would never do that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's the wrong takeaway. The thing is, absolutely you would have done that if you were there in those conditions. I've used this example. Well, here's an example, the Challenger disaster. And I will tell you, so that huge disaster, was it 7 astronauts lost their lives, including one school teacher who was on board. And this is before your time. No, actually, I think you were born in what?
86. So yeah, right.
That was what happened.
I was related to the mishap somehow.
Yeah. So the entire country was watching that launch. Every classroom in the country was on their TV set watching the launch. Mm-hmm. Because a school teacher was being sent up.
Oh, geez, yeah.
Okay, why was a school teacher being sent up? It was a publicity stunt by NASA. NASA, I forget the last time they landed a man on the moon. I don't know when that was. It was 69 was the first time, which everyone was riveted to their TV sets then. And then, by the time there was like the 8th or 9th landing, people were like yawning, and it was like no one was watching it anymore. And NASA was facing the Cold War, is basically winding down. NASA was facing these cutbacks, and they said, we gotta get the country behind us because Congress is cutting our budget. And so all 7 factors were present during the Challenger launch. So you got to let this land. The day they launched, it was in Florida, right, Cape Canaveral. And the average temperature, the lowest temperature ever of all the shuttle missions and all the space shots ever was like 53 degrees Fahrenheit. Kind of chilly, but okay. Going up into space, it's a lot colder than that. And on this morning, NASA gave the green light, launch, and when you see pictures of the launch gantry, it's caked in ice. Like you'd see in Siberia. I don't mean a little bit of ice. I mean like inches thick on the launch gantry. If a 6-year-old had seen, he'd say, well, you think it's a good idea to launch today? That's a lot of ice. Maybe not a good idea. It had overnight frozen. It was like 33 degrees. And sure enough, one of the key components froze during the launch, and kaboom, like 70 seconds or something after the launch, it exploded. Imagine every school kid in the country is watching. Yay! There's a teacher on that thing, and kaboom! Took a while for people to realize that it had exploded. All 7 factors were present, and if you read the history of it, and you look at if you just Google, you can just Google Challenger launch pad, and just look under photos, images, right? You'll go, what? It'd be the equivalent of you driving through a downpour. No, you pull over the side of the road. I'm not driving in that. That's crazy. NASA and all the scientists said, yes, go ahead, yay. Kaboom, 7 lives were lost. And that's the power of the stupidity zone. That's how, that's why it's so serious, right? And by the way,
7 lives lost and 20 years of trust lost in NASA in 5
NASA's
minutes.
doing the same mistake. Right now, hold on. I think it was December 2019. China had a space probe on the far side of the moon. Mm-hmm. Something we hadn't done really. We'd done a lot of things. We sent men back and forth, but we'd never done this one thing. And so NASA, Trump said, well, we're going to go back. We're going to redouble our space program, which is good. I mean, yes, highest priority. That's fine. I'm not critiquing Trump on this. But what NASA said really, either the head of NASA or the head of the program, one of the people said, it's our highest priority that we land the man we decided we go back there as quickly as possible. Remember the 7 factors? Urgency. Mm-hmm. It's one of the key factors. Mm-hmm. We got to get there as soon as we can. And another guy who had never been in space, and he wasn't American, he's Swiss. He said, we're aware of the risks, but we believe they're worth it. Oh, well, you're not aware of the risks. You're not going up in space. You're not running the risks, buddy. Mm. You're an engineer. The astronauts who run the risks. You're not. Oh, man, damn. Okay, what's the cost of going into space? No, it's the cost of stupidity. Anyway, so that's the kind of overview of stupidity. It's so if you're listening to this, here's the key takeaway. You will see and hear people do things, and you'll be in disbelief. You'll say, how could they have done that? I would never do that. And the takeaway here is, yes, you would. You may not have done that specific thing, but if you were in that situation, damn straight you would have done it. It would have been a different form of the stupidity, but yes, you would have, because you would have been in the stupid zone. Mm-hmm. I don't care how smart you are, Buffett and Munger. Oh my God, those are geniuses. Huh? Wow, I mean certified geniuses, right? And not just in investing, just genius full stop. And they're aware of it. Oh my gosh, it takes all of our effort not to be in the stupid zone and to recognize when we might be. Mm-hmm. And so really, whenever you see that, the takeaway should be what factors are present there, and I've listed them, and then go, okay, I got to watch out. And at the very least, like, okay, I have red team, I have advisors around me. You're going to say, Adam, you're in a stupid zone. Watch out. Don't make any decisions. Not only don't drive or operate heavy machinery, Adam, shut up, don't sign any contracts, sit still until you're out of the stupid zone.
Pull over to the side.
Pull over to the side of the road, at the very least. And there are other things you can do, but that's like, okay, that's a high level on stupidity.
I when I first heard that, and we'll write these in the show notes for people to jot down as well. When I first heard that, it made me reflect on the importance of routines and having routines in the morning for
Very
myself,
important.
to where once I started to operate with routines, I would tell people, if you operate with a routine, starting with waking up every morning at the same time, it sets your rhythm for the day and you can get into flow. For me, I could get into flow 30 minutes after waking up versus, 3 hours with no routines and waking up at 6 a.m., waking up at 10 a.m., spending 20 decision units on what I'm going to wear and eat and changing it each day. But I'd never thought about it as this antidote to stupidity until reading what you had wrote of that routine really can offset some of these factors.
Absolutely. Remember, one of the key factors is being outside your normal environment. Like you're traveling, right? Doesn't even have to be far away. You're in a neighborhood you've never been to, right? And a routine creates a really set mini environment, and it reduces the cognitive load, right? And Steve Jobs wore the same, jeans and a black turtleneck. Good. I don't have to think. It simplifies. Think about how much effort we spend every day. Okay, should I wear that sweater or of course now in COVID, it's screw it. We're all in, same sweatpants and, a t-shirt or something. And so he took that cognitive load off his plate. I don't have to think about that anymore. Buffett, same thing every day. Drives to work, stops off at McDonald's, and you've got a little routine. And as you do, as any of the, who was it? Shoot, I forget who said this. Said, in an ambitious man, routine is a sign of ambition. Doggone it. In an ambitious man, routine is, I have to look up that quote, but that routine, any of the greats in anything, the routine is so important. It just structures your life, less to think about, simplifies. Remember, simplify everything. Simplify. So that you can direct you free up your bandwidth to focus on your product, your startup, or your podcast, or Elle, or Marley, or your wife, and things that matter.
Right. Well, I have taken too much of your time this afternoon, Adam. So I'm going to let you go. But this is also just this is the point of departure of our relate. I have a feeling we're going to have many other conversations rather than closing the book on this. But I feel like this is the longest and smoothest conversation. I think it's why it's been such a pleasure and so long that we're going to split this into two parts. But I feel I won't be able to sleep at night if I don't let you get going, because I've taken up so much of your time.
Come on, it's been a real joy, and before we started, you and I had said I have a sense we're going to talk about things I've never talked about before, and indeed we have many. Like really, I've said things here I haven't said before, about Fischer or this or that, and I had a sense. Because if people listen to anytime I've ever spoken, pretty much same few themes. I don't have a lot to say. A few themes that I just work to death, and because I think life is pretty simple, and I think I know it's very simple if you make it so. And just, of course, as Steve Jobs said, it takes such discipline to keep it simple. And so I knew a lot of fun stuff would come out of this, and we're going to have a lot of fun. And heck, you're like 20 minutes away from me, And so great. Yeah, I look forward to more continued magic and conversations.
Likewise, I'm looking forward. And for listeners, we'll make it a part 3 because there was still so much that I didn't get to touch on with you. It's if you were to try to articulate why it's so interesting to talk to you. This is such a self-referential question, but I'm trying to think through why is it so entertaining to listen to Adam, and part of it is simplifying a complex world, but there's something else there. I wonder if you have a self-reflective answer on that.
Where's my attention right now?
Right here.
Oh, no, wrong. Where's my attention?
On this conversation?
On you.
On me, right.
Just on you. And of course, the conversation, our conversation. And so I'm just fully present for you and this conversation. I'm not thinking about anything else, except when Elle shows up. And then I'm thinking about you, because I know, oh, wow, your daughter, 3-year-old cherub running around. I hope not pulling Marley's hair or whatever she's doing.
Probably
or
is.
kissing Marley, whatever 3-year-olds do. She just adores her little sister. And anyway, so yeah, I'm fully present, and so I have no self-reflection because I'm not aware of myself. I'm just aware of you, and the flow of like a surfer, you get a wave and you ride it, and that's what we've done today. Gotten some waves, some nice big ones.
We have.
And we've ridden them, right? And gotten off and got some other waves, and the playfulness and just a real connection, and because your enthusiasm and mine too, right? And just feeding off of each other. So that's just based on a connection. That's all, really. And I just really, I guess, final thing, final thing is success in life. And it doesn't matter whether it's, business venture or personally with friends, or I don't care whether you want to start a company or a movement or in a relationship, right? No. It's the ability to paint pictures of a future that excite other people. And people go, yeah, I want in on that. Yes, I want in on that food product you got there, right? I want in on that, or I want in on you, right? Your wife, yes, I want in on you, James. And your audience, what you've created here. And yes, I want in on James. Like he just really connects with, really fascinating people and gets them to talk and share. And so really that's it. It's just, and that's, I'd say that was a great revelation I had about 5 years ago. And I realized to do anything in the world, you have to excite other people. You have to enroll them. And not as like if you're just trading, by yourself, okay. But really to build businesses, to start movements, to lead, whether it's leading, a PTA meeting or leading a country, the ability to excite people with images and pictures where they can see and go, yeah, let's do that. That's cool. Let's do that. Here's my money, or here's my support. I want in on that. And that's really so key. Everything. If I could say one thing, that's really the key thing.
Well, it ties to what you're saying about Edison versus Tesla. Might have been the crime of the century, but there was a miracle in there of him being able to get 1 million people wired up with electricity. And I think you touch on something extremely important and so overlooked, because these stories, that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is they get distilled down into these pithy sound bites of inventions. Steve Jobs and Apple didn't just invent a product, but it was the ability to light the world on fire around that product. It's the the little leak you get for the iPhone 12 that's 18 months out, and you're kind of excited about, wait, it's going to have this type of nodule, this, and it is that is so. Mark Andreessen told me once that has always stuck with me. He said that and I mention his name just so you can give weight to the statement, not to drop a cool name, although he is brilliant. I'm thankful to have heard this from him, but he said,
lots of people. Okay,
I know so many people, Adam, that I'm not mentioning. So I'm actually being humble by not mentioning the 100 name. No, but he said,
it would be cool if you just said Mark, the venture capitalist.
Yeah.
Oh, you could have been even more coy about it.
Mark was telling me, Teal always likes to say to me, but Mark Andreessen's.
No, Peter.
Peter, that's right, Peter. Well, Peter would actually, last night, but Mark told me, Mark Andreessen told me this once, that he said every business is either on their way towards building a massive sales force or on their way to shutting the doors. And it was interesting. He was saying something.
That's super cool. Wow.
Very, very cool. And then he said every successful company in Silicon Valley is a sales organization, or a sales organization masquerading as a engineering organization. And that even what Google nails is that they make you think that it is all brilliant engineers that are doing everything they're doing, but that's part of their sales. With Edison, it's telling everybody it was 1,000 times to figure out how the light bulb didn't work for me to figure out how it did work. And it is those little stories, that sleight of hand almost, that are sales, that gets to the root of what we want to hear, what we want to buy into. But it's exactly what you're saying of the secret is enthralling people in what you're building.
That's even better, enthrall, which comes from the Latin. A thrall was a slave. It's to be enslaved by something. It's so, wow. Boom, I got you. I got you now. I own you in the best possible way, right? It's not right. To be enthralled is to go, oh, you're held captive, literally, in the best possible way. We want to be captivated. We want to be captured by ideas, and people. We want to be captured.
But it's interesting that it is a dance between you are fluidly being interested and interesting, and the adage is be interested, not interesting. But there is this dance between the two that happens in our conversation. It happens in your conversations with really anyone you speak with. But there's something there that is a unique dynamic that's not captured by the adage be interested, not interesting.
Yeah. I wish I knew. I'm not self-aware. I don't actually know. I mean, I know my skill sets in terms of like what I do with markets or, figuring this thing out or that, but I don't, because I'm so focused, interested in you, in our conversation, and not knowing where it's going to go and not actually caring, just assuming by its very nature, it's going to be interesting. Well, and so there, yay.
And it has been.
A tribute to you and the kinds of questions you asked and your own innate enthusiasm and really let's explore this. So yay. Yeah, I had the best time.
Well, thank you, Adam. Likewise. Until next time. And where can people find out more about you online?
Well, I'm not really an Instagram guy because I don't. But both Instagram and Twitter, I am Adam Robinson is my, I am Adam Robinson. So that's the best thing. I don't really seek too much. In fact, I don't seek anything. But they could find out. I tweet a lot, as you know, when I have time. If I think of something interesting to say, or certain people, I just love to tease online. I'm always having fun. Basically, that's all I'm doing. I'm just like this. I just had a blast. We've been on this for a long time.
That's right.
time. I really didn't know the time. We could have gone easily another twice as long, and I would not have noticed.
Likewise. Likewise.
And so yeah. Okay. Great. To be continued.
To
Thank
be
you so
continued.
much.
And yeah, listeners, please do follow Adam on Twitter. It is always interesting. Well, Adam, thank you so much for the time. Until next time.
Yes. Yay. Okay.